and welcome to my tutorial on Airbus X Extended. Now there is a tutorial that comes with Airbus X Extended in a documentation, and there's a couple of YouTube videos, but people are struggling to get to grips with it. I've heard some people saying that they should do a tutorial on a tutorial, in fact. I got the Airbus X Extended as a Christmas present from my beautiful girlfriend Sarah. Thank you very much, Sarah. And I've been playing around with it, and I got used to the tutorial. Well, I've been playing flight simulators for the past 30 years. I mean, for those of you who may remember, my first flight simulator was the flight simulator on the ZX81, so I'm fairly used to flight simulators. I'm not proficient at FSX, Flight Simulator X. I don't know it that well at all. I've had it for a while, but I simply haven't played it much until I got this Airbus X Extended. When I saw this on a video which was created by Frugal. Frugal's a YouTube user, but he also writes for a PC Pilot magazine, which is a UK magazine all to do with flight sims. Anyway, he did a YouTube review on Airbus X Extended, and immediately I wanted it. This was the craft that was going to get me into Flight Simulator X, and it certainly has. So yeah, this is my own tutorial. The flight route's going to be different to the tutorial from the documentation. We're flying from Manchester EGCC to Heathrow EGLL. So it's a different flight route, but we're following the same steps as the tutorial, or most of the same steps as the tutorial. The scenery you can see around is the Manchester UK 2000 scenery. I've also got the Heathrow UK 2000 scenery installed as well. It's a free version I've got installed. There is a payware version which I haven't got, but I am tempted to get the Gatwick payware version. Gatwick's an airport I will use a lot, so I'll more than likely get the Gatwick payware version. Primarily, I want to support the producers of UK 2000 scenery, so that's why. Okay, so without further ado, let's get inside the aircraft. Okay, so now we're in the cockpit. When you first load up Airbus X Extended, this is the state of the cockpit. This is the default state. The plane's up and running, there's power coming in, a few systems are on. Unless you have your own user-defined state, you can choose a state which the aircraft starts. This is the default state. Now, the tutorial asks that we put the aircraft into a cold and dark state. We're going to do that. A couple of things about these MCDUs. The left MCDU, which is this one here, this is all to do with your flight plan. It's about the routes you'll be taking, the fuel you're going to put in the plane, the aircraft speed on takeoff, a couple of other things, all to do with the routes you'll be taking, and it will feed it to the autopilot. The right MCDU is more about game options. You've got things like options for sound, views, aircraft states. You've got a couple of things like aircraft doors and ground services, but it's mainly to do with game options. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is left click the aircraft state, left click the button next to aircraft state, left click cold and dark state, the button next to that. The aircraft goes into a completely cold and dark state. There's no power coming into the plane, everything's completely turned off. It's a cold and dark cockpit. Now, I'm going to let it power down a bit. Now, following the tutorial, we want to get the overhead panel, which is this one. The only button that's remotely lit up is the external power. It's saying external power available. We want to left click that button to bring external power into the plane so the plane's got power. So we left click that. And then following the tutorial, battery 1 and 2. You see there, battery 1 and 2. We want to left click both of those to turn them on. We now go back down to the right MCDU. I'm going to actually run through a couple of options I've got set up in the game here. So we left click the options button. Now the viewing system, let's go to views first. I've got the viewing system of the game off. I'm using EasyDock, system, which lets me run around the cockpit like this. I've set these views myself. I prefer to use EasyDock. There is a viewing system built into the game, and it's like a mini EasyDock. So if you haven't got EasyDock, not to worry, this viewing system's quite good. You'll see a tab at the left-hand corner here, and you can switch between views that way. So it's pretty good. We return to the previous menu, go to Sound. I've got the cabin crew and flight crew turned on. Cabin crew, you will hear them sneeze a bit and cough. Flight crew, they'll say passengers boarding, that type of thing. Leave them on. I recommend you put them on because it adds a bit of immersion into the game. It just makes it feel more realistic. I usually have ATC on. I've got it off for this tutorial so you can hear my voice clearly. Whether that's a good thing or not, I've got the ATC turned off. We'll return to the route menu now. Now, following the tutorial, we'll go to checklist. We'll go to checklist on. The tutorial asks for Copilot to be turned on. I'm going to leave it off because I'm going to set up the plane. I'll go through it slowly if you want to follow me. You can turn the Copilot on. The Copilot will set up all the plane. Leave it off for now if you want to follow me. I'll go through these next steps, or the first few checklists slowly. So the first thing we do, first checklist, is the cockpit preparation. So we shall choose that, left click it.
Okay, let's start with the cockpit preparation checklist. Both on.
Electrical power,
External power on.
navigation lights,
Okay, the lights on the overhead panel, the lights are all at the bottom. Landing lights, no smoking lights, seatbelt sight, nav lights, beacon lights. You'll find all the lights in the system at the bottom of the whole overhead panel. Left click nav lights.
Set on.
engine master,
Both off.
engine mode selector,
Check normal.
landing gear lever,
Checked.
parking brake,
Is off.
flaps,
Checked position.
speed brake lever,
Checked retracted.
thrust lever,
Idle.
transponder mode,
Checked standby.
radio control panel,
Now, for the past few items on the checklist, the Copilot's been asking the state of things. We didn't have to press anything because she's just asking what state are they in. The pilot's saying check, it's up, the flaps are up, the speed brake's up. We didn't have to do anything. The Copilot's just asking for the state of them. She has asked now for the radio panel to go on. We have to do that. That's both switches, both that switch and that switch will turn it on. I'm going to use the right switch, just left click it, it will turn the radio panel on.
Set on.
ECM recall,
Now the ECM recall, I have to, it's that button there, I have to left click that a few times for it to check. I might be doing something wrong there, but you have to click it a few times before it will check.
Checked.
anti-skid,
Is on.
flight director,
Is on.
emergency lights,
That's the flight director. Now, emergency lights, we just left click that once to arm it.
Set.
no smoking
No
signs,
smoking, we just click that 2 times.
Set on.
anti-ice,
Are off.
crowd window heat,
Is off.
air condition,
Checked.
ventilation panel,
Checked.
electric panel,
Checked.
fuel pumps,
Fuel pumps are these. You've got basically left, centre and right fuel pumps. We need to switch all of these 6 switches on. They're off at the moment. Switch them all on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Set on.
That's a few pumps.
hydraulics,
Checked.
active brake pressure,
Checked.
ground proximity warning system,
Are on.
electronic flight control system,
Is on.
ADIRS,
ADIRS, that's these 3 knobs here. They're in the off position. We right click them to turn them all to nav. So, 1, 2, 3.
Set to nav.
emergency equipment,
Checked.
checklist complete,
Okay, now simple as that. That checklist is complete. We've done the first checklist. We've had a hand in setting up the aircraft. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is actually I'm gonna turn those screens on, the aircraft screens on. Get to a better position. So these 2 screens are controlled by these 2 knobs. We used to be able to just right click them and they turned on automatically. Now it's like a dimmer switch. You have to scroll up with your mouse, middle mouse button, and you can brighten it or dim it, that's fine. Same for that screen. I'm going to brighten it a bit, scrolling up with the mouse button, and that's fine. Get a better view for the bottom two screens. So you've got these two knobs control them two screens. So scroll up a bit with the mouse, that's fine. Okay, perfect. We have the screens adjusted the way we like them. Next thing to do now is the flight plan. We want to program into the left MCDU our flight plan, what routes we're going to take. So, first thing to do is we want to go to the init button, which is this button here, left click. First thing on there, we need to align the IRS. Click the button next to that, that will align the IRS. Left click. I'll get to a better view here. I want to show you. There we go. You can see on that screen there the IRS will align in 4 minutes. So now, the from and to, that's our departure airport and arrival airport. We need to enter that so the autopilot knows where we're flying to and the plane knows where we're flying to. So we're typing EGCC, that's Manchester, / EGLL, that's London Heathrow. The / denotes that / there, it separates the airport, you have to put that in. Once you've entered that, you can just enter that into the MCDU. So left click the button there. Here, this page is saying, have we got any routes stored? We have none. You can see we have none routes stored for Manchester to London Heathrow. So all we need to do there is return to the previous screen. Right, flight number. This can be anything you want. In the tutorial, it's LH320. We're flying a 320, but we're flying British Airways. So I'm going to type in British Airways, BA320. You can put your initials, your first name and last name, and any number you want to. To make it more authentic, I'm going to put in BA320. Like I say, that can be anything you want to. Once you've entered that into the keypad, press the button next to flight number. Cost index tutorial says put 40. I don't see any reason to change that. We can keep that at 40 following the steps of the tutorial. So once that's in, left click. Cruise flight level. This is the height at which the Airbus will cruise, the highest height. In the tutorial, it says flight level 31,000 feet. We're going to Manchester, we're flying at 19,000 feet, flight level 19,000. You only need to enter the first 3 numbers of the flight level you want. So if it's 19,000, we enter 190. So 190, that's 19,000 feet. If it was 31, you just enter 310. But 19,000 feet, and we've got the temperature automatically set to. I'm now going to show you Fuel Planner. There's an application called Fuel Planner. I'll show you how to do that. I'm not going to tab out of this video because fraps will crash me. So I'll show you. I'll now switch to another video showing you Fuel Planner. Okay, so now we're going to load up Fuel Planner. You will find Fuel Planner under the Start panel. All programs, you want to go to Aerosoft and Airbus X Extended. And then in that folder you will find Airbus X Fuel Planner. Left click that. It may take a while to load now because I'm recording at the same time. It's come up straight away, that's fine. Now I put passengers as 100. I put cargo as 5,200 kilograms. You may want to copy the same settings so we're on the same page. 100 passengers, 5,200 kilogram of cargo. The departure ICAO is the departure airport. We're flying from Manchester, so the departure code is EGCC. We're flying to Heathrow. The code for Heathrow is EGLL. So we're typing in basically the departure code and the arrival code. It will automatically calculate that it's 130 nautical miles, which is very handy. It's a handy tool that it calculates the distance. And it's also calculated that we'll need for this cargo and for these passengers and this distance, we will need 6,384 kilograms of fuel. what you would do there, I've not got FSX loaded up because I have problems tabbing it in and out while I'm recording. But normally I would have it loaded. I would click load fuel. You get a message saying that the fuel has been loaded into the aircraft, and then you can exit it and come back into the game. So click load fuel when you've done all this, and it will load into the aircraft. You want to keep a mental note of the 6 points. It's almost 6.4 thousand kilograms. Keep a mental note of the first two numbers, 6.4. We're going to round it up to 4. So 6.4. That will be important. Okay. Meanwhile, back in the cockpit, the left MCDU is exactly the same way as we left it. The information is the same. We've just come back to the cockpit. I've got to stress the importance of loading fuel planner while FSX is running and while Airbus X Extended is running as well. If you don't run fuel planner while it's running, you won't load fuel into the aircraft. So Alt Enter Out, put the simulation into window mode, go to fuel planner, load it in. Otherwise, you're going to be running on a full tank and it's going to mess the flight up. So that's quite important. Okay, to check that we have the required amount of fuel on board, we click the fuel button on the ECAM, and I'll get a better view there. We can scroll in just to see that we do indeed have just under 6.4 kilograms of fuel. That's the correct fuel. And you can see that's spread in the tanks of the aircraft. So that's perfect. It will default back to the door page, and if you want to see your fuel or other information again, you will have to repress the button. So repress fuel, you can see the fuel page again. These clear buttons may be on there, on as default. You will have to click them off, so click them before you start changing pages on the ECAM. Actually, previously, as I was doing a checklist and recall wouldn't check the first time, if I pressed the clear button to clear those first, I would have been able to check the recall on the first click. So that solved that problem. We go back to the left MCDU, and like I say, the init page is all set up. The next page we need to go to is our F plan, our flight plan. So we're going to click that. Oh yeah, and just to say, we're going to fill in the information now between the departure and arrival airports. So we're going to put in more information in the flight plan. So we left click EGCC, the button next to EGCC, that's our takeoff. We left click departure, obviously we're departing from Manchester, so we left click departure. And we're going to take off on runway 23 right. Just a bit of information about this route. It's not something I've invented, it's actually come from a PC Pilot magazine, which is a UK magazine to do with flight simulators. In their November-December issue of last year, they had this flight plan. And all I've done is entered it. I read it and thought, well, we could use this in the Airbus. I think it was meant to be for the PMDG series of planes, but it follows the same steps, basically. You can still use flight plans for the Airbus that you could for other crafts as well. Anyway, we choose runway 23 right. According to the magazine, we need to choose our SID as our standard instrument departure. So when we take off, this is where we'll be heading to, and that's HON1R. So we need to choose that, HON1R. That's our SID, and then we shall enter that into the flight plan. Next thing we do is, it's filled in the rest of the waypoints in between, by the way. It's done that automatically from the information we've entered. Next thing we need to do is to click our destination airport, that's EGLL. It's a very simple flight plan. So we have click on the destination EGLL, obviously click arrival, and we want to scroll up. We want to land on ILS runway 27 right. We can't see it, so we need to use the up arrow to scroll up. Now we can see it. So we choose that as our arrival runway. As a star, we want it let's scroll up a bit. We want BNN4A. This is according to the magazine route again. So we had to scroll up to get that, but BAN for A, we shall enter that as our star. Now to get to veer, I was trying to figure this one out, but the button veers will actually take you to the veer waypoint, as it were. So you have to click veers first, and then we can choose the veer. We need to choose BNN, so that's entered. So we've got our arrival runway, our veer, and our star. We can click the temporary flight plan button, and then we can click insert. And that's all the flight plan done. We're just going to scroll up to see if there are any flight plan discontinuities. If there is, we need to clear them. There is one, but it's at the end of the flight plan. It's not going to affect the flight plan. And anyway, I've tried to clear it, and we simply can't clear that for some reason. But it's not going to affect the flight plan. It's at the end of the flight plan. It's not going to have any effects for us. So that's fine. Simple as that. We put an SID and a star on our arrival and takeoff and arrival airports, and that's all we need to do. We now have to go to RadNav. We need to enter FFM and click the top right button. So this is a RadNav page. Top right button. So FFM, top right button, and we click the nearest RadNav, which is 451, the other one's over 3,000 nautical miles. So obviously the first one's the nearest. We left click that one, and that's the RadNav page dealt with. I don't know much information about the RadNav, I'm still reading up on that, so I can't say much about it. So now we go to our perf page, PERF page, and we need to say what state the flaps are going to be when we take off. According to the tutorial, it's flaps 1 we need to take off on. Well, it's asking us to take off on flaps 1. So we enter 1 and forward stroke. The forward stroke is because you can see the forward stroke there, and that shows we're taking off on flaps 1. It's automatically putting our V1 speed and VR speed. V1, the Cockpilot will read out when we're on the runway, we approach V1. VR is when we pull back the joystick and rotate, we lift off basically. We're taking off from obviously runway 23 right, as we mentioned before. So that's that page dealt with. The last thing we need to do is go back to the transition alt is also fine. 5,000, that's also fine, correct. The last page we need to go to is back to the init page, and we want to go choose the right arrow key to choose a second page of the init page. So init, right arrow key, the numbers which I said keep an eye on before on the fuel planner. This is why it's important. We now need to enter 6.4 because it's 6.4 thousand kilograms that we entered. So we enter 6.4 into block, it's our block fuel, 6.4 into block, click the button that's next to block, left click, and it will fill in the rest of the information for us. That's why that was important, and that's why we need to put in the correct fuel. And that is completely it for the left MCDU. We've filled in all we need to fill in. It's a very simple flight plan, like I say, which is why I'm showing it on this tutorial. If you followed all the steps, you should have the same information that I have now. Next thing we're going to do is go up to our flight control unit. Now we need to set the autopilot alt, that's our autopilot height. Now if you were to click this, if you were to mouse forward on this knob here, you're only going to go up in increments of 100. It's going to take ages to get to 19,000. Never, even worse for the 30,000. Click on the outside and push that to 1,000 selector. Now if you click mouse up on that, you can see it's going up by the thousands. It's a lot easier to reach our cruise alt. We're going to go straight to cruise alt, left click, and now that the autopilot will take us to 19,000 feet. So that's perfect. Now you can see there also, with the heading and speed, they're not in managed mode. We need to left click both of those knobs to put them into managed autopilot mode. At the moment they're not. And I'm not sure why they're not as default, but we need to click them both. So left click heading, now that's going to be managed by the autopilot, and left click speed as well. Otherwise, we will take off and we will climb at 140 and stay at 140 until we either intercept the speed, put our own speed in, or ask the autopilot to do it. I'll show you more of this in flights later, but left click it now, the autopilot will manage our speed. We want to put the arc range down to 10. This is according to the tutorial, our closest range. It's like a map, overview map of the area and waypoints. We can zoom it all the way the other way and you can see a wider range of waypoints in the area. It doesn't make much sense at the moment. I can talk about this more in flights, but we put it down to the closest range, and that's going to be 10. We now want to go back to our right MCD. Oh, you can see all the screens are set up. The IRS has been aligned. We go down to our right MCD. It's asking us to close the doors for our next checklist. First, we will return to the main menu. We'll click on checklist. We'll still keep the autopilot on. If you want it on, you don't want to follow my steps, that's fine, but I'm going through these steps slowly, so keep the autopilot off and just follow what I'm doing. It's all very straightforward. We need to go to aircraft doors now. Choose that. Left click front left door to close it. So we left click that to close it. Once it's closed, the passenger crew, the flight crew will say that the passengers are boarded, and the next checklist will start automatically. So you can see now I've clicked it. We're closing the front door. I'll return to the checklist.
Captain, the cabin is secure. All passengers are aboard.
Before start checklist.
Windows and doors.
Closed and locked.
APU.
Now let's get to the right place. The APU, you can see them here. You need to switch on master before you press start. So left click master, see APU there. Left click
Set
master,
on.
then left click start.
APU bleed.
The APU bleed is just a couple above it. You can see it above there. APU
Set
bleed,
on.
left click.
External power.
Get external power off. You need to right click it first. I had to find this out the hard way, but return. Go to ground services on this menu. Ground services and external power. click it,
Disconnected and
disconnect
off.
it.
Cabin signs.
Set on.
Click that twice to turn the
Idle.
seatbelts on.
Parking brake.
Parking brake, just left click it.
Set on.
Barrel reference.
Set. 996.
996. Check. Beacon lights.
Set on.
Beacon lights, just left click to turn on. Simple as that, the checklist is now complete. Next thing would be the start push and then taxi. I'm going to go out to a top-down view to show you our taxiway. So here's our plane at the moment. We're at gate 203 for reference. Gate 203 if you want to follow. That's Manchester. So we're going to come down here. We're going to push back to the right. So we're going to push back, and push back to the right. We're going to go in that direction, basically. So we're going to come along there, turn there, all the way down here, roughly. And then we're coming along here, along here, along here, along there rather, up there, and along there onto the 23 right runway. And that is 23 right, the other runway is 23 left, as you can just see. So we're going to go along there. So that's the aircraft, that's where the aircraft starts. You can see it's a long route to go. Along there. I will be checking this as I'm actually taxiing to make sure I'm going in the right direction. It's actually a fun taxiway if you want to try it. So gate 203. It's gate 203. Okay, we're not going to do that now. I'm going to leave this for another video, because this video is getting stupid, very long. So yeah, I'm going to stop the video here, and part 2 will be taxi and takeoff.